Today we have a poem that is about as philosophically meta as a poem can be without being about poetry or being a writer or being a poet, etc. So we can leave Charles Bukowski, for the most part, out of this conversation. But this is quite the ride of a poem, so we're going to get right into it. The poem so this poem will be in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist. Number two being the reading in a winter wonderland in celebration of December 2024. All sorts of literature that is themed around snow, the cold, winter, etc. The poem is Frost at Midnight by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and it reads as such. The frost performs its secret ministry, unhelped by any wind. The owlet's cry came loud, and hark, again, loud as before. The inmates of my cottage, all at rest, have left me to that solitude which suits obtruser musings, save that at my side my cradled infant slumbers peacefully. 'Tis calm indeed, so calm that it disturbs and vexes meditation with its strange and extreme silentness. Sea, hill, and wood, this populous village, sea and hill and wood with all the numberless goings on of life, inaudible as dreams, the thin blue flame lies on my low burnt fire and quivers not. Only that film which fluttered on the grate still flutters there, the sole unquiet thing. Methinks its motion in this hush of nature gives it dim sympathies with me who live, making it a companionable form, whose puny flaps and freaks and idling spirit by its own moods interprets everywhere, echo or mirror, seeking of itself, and makes a toy of thought. But oh, how oft at school, with most believing mind, presageful have I gazed upon the bars to watch that fluttering stranger, and as oft with unclosed lids already had I dreamt of my sweet birthplace, and the old church tower whose bells the poor man's only music rang from morn to evening all the hot fair day, so sweetly that they stirred and haunted me with a wild pleasure falling on mine ear, most like articulate sounds of things to come. So gazed I, till the soothing things I dreamt lulled me to sleep, and sleep prolonged my dreams. And so I brooded all the following morn, awed by the stern preceptor's face, mine eye fixed with mock study on my swimming book. Save if the door half opened and I snatched a hasty glance, and still my heart leaped up, for still I hoped to see the stranger's face, townsman or aunt or sister more beloved, my playmate when we both were clothed alike. Dear babe, that sleepest cradled by my side, whose gentle breathings heard in this deep calm fill up the interspersed vacancies and momentary pauses of the thought, my babe so beautiful it thrills my heart with tender gladness, thus to look at thee and think that thou shalt learn far other lore and in far other scenes, for I was reared in the great city pent mid cloisters dim, and saw naught lovely but the sky stars. But thou, my babe, shalt wander like a breeze by lakes and sandy shores, beneath the crags of ancient mountain and beneath the clouds, which image in their bulk both lakes and shores and mountain crags. So shalt thou see and hear the lovely shapes and sounds intelligible of that eternal language which thy God utters, who from eternity doth teach himself in all, and all things in himself. Great universal teacher, he shall mold thy spirit, and by giving make it ask. Pardon me. Therefore all seasons shall be sweet to thee, whether the summer clothe the general earth with greenness, or the red breast sit and sing betwixt the tufts of snow on the bare branch of mossy apple tree, while the night thatch smokes in the sun thaw, whether the eve drops fall, heard only in the trances of the blast, or if the secret ministry of frost shall hang them in silent icicles quietly shining to the quiet moon. So, it seems to me that what our speaker is going through is something of a maybe transcendent moment, maybe a spiritual moment, maybe something as close to you hear the phrase from time to time, speaking with God. It seems to me that this is the sort of ambiance of the poem. Now, maybe you have, probably at some point in your life, you have been near that guy at the public library, or near that guy on the bus, or stopped at a red light next to that guy as he stands between the lanes of cars and speaks to God. You know what I'm talking about. There's a fine line between those people who are hearing from God and those people who are talking to God. This seems to be a speaker in tune with trying to talk to God. There are a lot of people on the less than fortunate side of psychology that God talks to, right? You know what I'm saying here. Where is the line there? Now, that's not actually what I want to talk about with this poem, but it's close. It is very close to what it is that I want to talk about with this poem. This poem is known as a conversation poem. This is stolen directly from Wikipedia. The conversation poems are a group of at least 8 poems composed by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, 1772 to 1834, between 1795 and 1807. Each details a particular life experience which led to the poet's examination of nature and the role of poetry. They describe virtuous conduct and man's obligation to God, nature, and society, and asks if there is a place for simple appreciation of nature without having to actively dedicate one's life to altruism. Now, kind of what this poem is a day in the life of spiritual philosophical poet vlog. Kind of, right? We have this snippet of a couple moments here, and our speaker is just talking into the camera. And baby, he's going for it. But I do think that there are a couple of things which perhaps facilitate those discussions. We have here a poem, let me get back all the way to the top of it, called Frost at Midnight, right? The poem's title itself gives us a couple of elements that we can pick up throughout the poem, but the poem title really sort of beautifully frames, I think, expectation going into the poem. Why? You can see that image, Frost at Midnight. You know that moment, Frost at Midnight. You can feel that. You can see that. You can touch that in your own mind's eye. You have that immediately. You know what frost at midnight is, and it puts you in a state of mind. And of course, we have frost right there in the beginning of the poem. So I think that time and temperature, if you will, but something maybe a little more, maybe a little bigger than that, are immediate factors in this poem. The cold, we are very brittle creatures. The cold forces us inside. It forces us away from greater civilization. The cold forces us into at least a smaller tribe than the tribe to whom we belong, to which we belong. I, for example, live in Kansas City, but I live on my own. When it's cold, I do not belong to Kansas City. I belong to the four walls of my apartment. This is something that affects all of us. Nobody's saying, "Hey, it's negative 20 degrees out. Let's go to town hall." So cold forces us inward, forces us into something more akin to isolation. Poetry focuses us inward. Sure, you have a subject of a poem. It's maybe the rose, the red, red rose. But that red, red rose tells you something about yourself. Poetry forces us inward. Midnight, that is a time of solitude. That is a time of at least a smaller tribe. So I think that starting with the title itself, and we get into the poem, and this is what really sold it for me. My cradled infant slumbers peacefully. If that's not a line reaching towards the transcendent, I don't know what is. If that's not a line saying, give me something bigger. Show me I have what it's really all about. Cradled and slumbering peacefully. This is everything. So the transcendent from having everything in your arm is to say, well, what made the rest of it worth it? Shouldn't I have just been doing this? Shouldn't this have been what I was? Did I waste the rest of my time? Did I waste all prior moments to this? And I think that the sort of connection to the eternal, I think that the sort of idea of channeling God, whatever it is that you consider God, or whatever it is that you consider the spiritual, is to find the answer, perhaps. No. Nothing else was wasted. Because prior to you cradling that infant in your arm, everything else went into you being you. Everything else went in to making this you as you are. If there is a conversation to be had with the eternal, if there is a conversation to be had with the ever after, if there is a conversation to be had with whatever it is that we find spiritual, it seems that this is something which lives in us, whether religion does or not. Maybe that's the conversation. You only have this time. How can you be quite sure that you're wasting as little of it as possible? even if you find the thing which makes it all worth it. Doesn't that give you a feeling of emptiness for all of your time spent prior? I think the answer in this poem is it should not. I think the answer in this poem is those prior moments prepared you for the meaning that you have found. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel. I do novel read-alongs. We do short stories, short story read-alongs. We just finished up Dubliners by James Joyce this year. We're making our way slowly but surely through Hemingway. We are about to finish up 10th of December by George Saunders with the ultimate, 10th of December on the 10th of December. And as always, I hope to have you back for that next one.